Hi everyone, this video will teach you how to write the conclusion paragraph of your argumentative research essay. If you haven't already done so, I recommend that you watch the thesis statement, introduction paragraph, and the body paragraph videos before watching this one. Please follow along using the orange What is Argumentative Writing Part 2 booklet, and if you don't have one, there's a Word document on Blackboard so you can type your notes directly on that document. So your argumentative research essay should have 4 paragraphs. We have the intro, argument 1, argument 2, and conclusion paragraph. In this video, we'll focus on the last item here, which is a triangle at the bottom, the conclusion paragraph. Before we jump in, as always, let's ask the following question. What might your reader need in the conclusion paragraph? After carefully reading your essay, your reader is now an informed reader. They know a whole lot more about your topic thanks to you. Your reader continues to be intelligent and skeptical, and by the time that they're reaching your conclusion paragraph, they're probably assessing the information you've offered and making their mind up on whether or not they agree with you. To fully convince this kind of reader over, please remember the 3 main rhetorical strategies you will need throughout your essay: logos, pathos, and ethos, or appeal to credibility. As you saw in the other videos, especially the body paragraph video, logos and ethos are critical in convincing your reader over. And although the body is where most of the work happens, it's really important to keep logos and ethos in mind in the conclusion, because this is where you leave a lasting impression on your reader. What feelings and thoughts will they walk away with? Your conclusion paragraph plays a big role in solidifying that. Now, we spoke mainly of logos before, so I wanted to take this opportunity to speak briefly about ethos. As you conclude your essay, make sure you think back to your essay and how you've written it and developed your argument so far, and ask yourself if you've done these things to establish the ethos or establish a credibility in your essay. Acknowledging your perspective. So did you acknowledge to your reader what shapes and influences your particular perspective? And did you acknowledge that perhaps it has to do with who you are, what your experiences have been, and what you've learned through your education? Oftentimes, an honest and authentic researcher and writer will acknowledge their perspective and acknowledge limitations of their perspective to keep their biases in check. Now, another thing that you might do is to tone down your bias by recognizing other people's perspectives. And of course, using reliable evidence. This is something that I expect you to do throughout your body. Other ways to ensure that you are building ethos or credibility throughout your essay is making sure that the kind of language you're using is not language that is extreme or exaggerated or emotionally charged, because all of those things suggest high level of bias. You also want to make sure that you are not misrepresenting an issue or unethically distorting or manipulating information. As we near the end of the essay, it's a good time to go back and reread your draft to see if you ensure that you build credibility, so that you not only present yourself as a trustworthy researcher and journalist, but also that you've authentically earned the reader's trust. So what does the conclusion exactly look like? I'm in this section of the orange booklet. It looks like this. Please follow along and copy the diagram on the next slide. The conclusion paragraph is the opposite of the introduction paragraph. It starts very specific and opens in a more general way, and that's why it's in the shape of a triangle. We start by restating the thesis statement. Then we spend 2 to 3 sentences summarizing your 2 body paragraph arguments. And then at the end, we end by reminding the reader the significance or urgency of the issue, or we can ask them to do something about the issue, so it could be a call of action, or we can end with offering further recommendations. So there's various options in which you can close your essay, and we'll talk more about them shortly. So first, restating the thesis. As you already know, this is review by this point. The thesis includes the claim, the how, which are the 2 arguments, and the so what. You must restate the thesis. This is your way of saying to your reader towards the end, hey, recall the promise that I made earlier, right? This is what I was out to prove. And at the end here, you repeat it to say, and this is a promise that I successfully fulfilled. So again, the thesis is your promise. Remind them of the promise you fulfilled. That's why you restate the thesis. And honestly, it's okay if you restate it verbatim the way you said it in your introduction. And when you tweak it, tweak it a little bit, but make sure that you keep the consistent phrases or specific terminology that you used for your arguments. Next, spend some time reminding the reader about the two arguments you used in the body of the essay and that you've thoroughly developed through evidence. What were your arguments? What are some key points you want the reader to remember? Finally, end the conclusion paragraph with one or a combination of the prompts here. You can remind the reader of the significance or the urgency of the contentious issue. Perhaps share with them what hopes you have for the future. What do you hope will be achieved? What do you hope will change or resolve this controversial issue? Emphasize the larger implications on the community. Who does this directly and indirectly affect? And by doing this, you're reminding the reader again why they should care about the issue. You can also leave the reader with a call to action. What is something practical that they can do to make a difference? Perhaps you'd like to leave them with a quotation from a source. If you do this, please do not forget to cite and also explain why this quotation is important. Reinforce your point through the quote. And if you like, you can also make reading and research recommendations for your reader. You only have 5 to 6 pages to develop your thesis, but if you want to leave the reader with more resources, you can share those resources at the end. Some tips I have for you: stay focused. You have to stay focused in your conclusion. You're wrapping up your essay here, so you want to reinforce your thesis and your arguments. It may sound a little bit repetitive for you when you're doing the writing, but for your reader, this is something that they need because they need to stay focused on your message. Do not add new information. You shouldn't be introducing new issues, or you shouldn't be moving off topic. Stay on topic, stay focused, and the only new information you're offering are things like reading recommendations. As you restate your thesis, one thing you want to consider is to ask yourself, did I fully and sufficiently develop my thesis? If you did, that's amazing. If you think you fall short, if you think that you did not fully develop your thesis, this is an opportunity for you to go back and revise and rewrite certain sections. Last but not least, the reader should feel a sense of closure after reading your conclusion paragraph. This is where you wrap up and tie everything up together. So those are some tips to consider as you finalize your conclusion paragraph. I want to end by reminding you of your reader's needs. You should be constantly thinking about what your reader needs. What does your audience need as you finalize your conclusion? Thanks for watching.